everybody, back to another episode of Tea Time with Villains Marksman and Bluebelly Gaming. Today we're going to talk about how we come up with our creative ideas. It's one thing that everybody, it doesn't matter
Uh,
what kind of content you create, we all have to adapt and change our ideas as we go. So
y-
it's a process that I think for most of us it changes over time. So I'm gonna open it up for Marksman here to talk a little bit about how do you get your ideas for content, and then probably along with that, how do you improve your ideas for content over time?
yeah, I guess for me, I've talked about it in the past on this is that I'm a storyteller by nature. That's what I hope to get a job in and career, all that. So the way I approach it is I usually come up with like a base story, if that makes sense, in which I can make content for, and then I kind of just build my content from there. I'll either because being I make montages, there's not much of a story in the content itself, but through my thumbnails and through like music choice, I kind of try to develop that. So I'll have different series of my content of what I'm talking about or what I'm doing, either if that's sniping montages or something a little more. I don't know how to word that, but not different, but I'll try to mix it up. I don't always like making the. While I only make montages on my main channel, I don't always just like to, do the same thing. Oh boy, what is this? If that any of that made sense at all.
It
Uh,
does, yeah. And you have a kind of a unique thing that you're always playing the same game, and so to make it creative and to have a story, you're essentially branding the same kind of content. Oh, I got thought I was gonna get that one there. You're branding the same kind of content, but every separate video has to have its own.
right, or it's
uh,
just repetitive.
right. And I've noticed over the time that you've had your channel that you're like the music and the thumbnail will all have a unique style to it, even though, like you said, montages are all montages.
Right, yeah, just something to give it a little. Oh, you got a hole in one.
Yeah.
uh, just something to give it its own personality or flair, and then I could probably, if I was thinking about it now, like put those into separate playlists. That way, people can watch multiple videos that are similar in that sense, depending on what story I choose. I don't really haven't really done that, but I haven't really thought about it to that extent personally.
Right.
So I mean, that's something that's I probably have to work
Well,
on.
and I think one tactic that we can use for coming up with content ideas is, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So you can always see what other people have done
Hmm.
in your niche and try to oh, nice, you got one too. Sweet. You can always see what other people have done. Like there are other trick shotters and there are other sniper
Right.
montage people. So like sometimes you might borrow. It might not be the whole concept, but you might say, all right, I'm gonna take, I'll do different music and slightly different shots, but I like the way they do X, Y, or
Right,
Z.
like the editing style
Oh,
or
yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean. I actually don't watch a lot of montage videos, being like that's what I make is kind of weird that I don't watch many of them, but like
Yeah.
I watch a lot of they're called funtages, so it's just a bunch of funny people, right, playing the
Yep.
game. And a lot of times the quick editing, certain things they do in that I've tried to it's a little different when you're making a more serious or like gameplay montage, but the editing techniques you can still take from that, and that's kind of something I've been trying to do a little better.
Well, and that's something I definitely know that I need to improve on with my own content is like you may have seen it. I did a tweet not that long ago, maybe a week or so ago, where I said, I finally watched a video of my own that I like wanted to watch,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like hearing yourself talk or sing or something else. Like
Yeah, yeah.
observing your own creative work can be a little bit weird, but I genuinely had made a farm sim video that even though I knew what was going to happen, I still wanted to watch the story. And that was a unique experience for me. But what I'm trying to get better at is making stuff that, like, genuinely, if it's a Saturday morning
Mm-hmm.
and I have a little bit of time to watch YouTube, would I click on that video? Because if
Right.
I'm not making stuff that even I would want to purposely watch, then that's a problem. And
Right.
I think coming up with ideas, you can borrow from other people and then put your own kind of spin on it. Uh, for me, the main way that I find I actually have a notebook that I will write down not just, I want to do another farm sim video, but I will specifically write down like tutorial ideas for, like, I've been playing this game called Medieval Dynasty, and I
Mm-hmm.
have a
Interesting.
playthrough uh,
Yikes.
series that's going with Medieval Dynasty, and it's not doing great on views because it's just a playthrough.
Right.
But what I found with some of my other stuff is if I put like a tutorial on how to hunt in Medieval Dynasty. It's one of my ideas that I have written down. I haven't done the video yet, but it's do a
Yeah.
hunting guide. I can have that be a quick, short video that will be searchable, and then of course in the end screen I'll link my playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
thinking about content ideas as how it could link to your other stuff, like you were just talking about doing a montage so that you can make a list of montages.
Right.
Um, and I think that's an important element to that goes back to what we were talking about in earlier episodes of having a brand strategy
Mm-hmm.
that what you do well and how to link that together so that when people think Villain's Marksman, oh, he's a competitive COD player, I want
Right.
to watch his stuff because I know they're going to be good shots and it's going to be well edited or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of like, I mean, pretty much what you just. Where are we going? What you just said, like the whole entirety of like the goal of my channel, right, is to be known for good editing, good, good gameplay. But like, I, being part of the villainous gaming thing, right? Started our podcast. We're kind of still working out certain things with it. Um, I still don't know where we're going. But so like podcasting, something I'm not used to doing. I've never really done that. So I guess it's just a little different for me trying to like figure out how to do that. So I think but doing that kind of has helped me as
It's over
thinking of
here.
content ideas. Oh, I see it now. Thinking of like things in a little different way. Like I actually think podcasting is pretty interesting, or at least fun. If I were personally to say it, I mean it's not for everyone because it is a lot of talking.
Yeah.
But I've actually trying to do my own. I've been watching a lot of podcasts that aren't mine, obviously, but trying to see if I can implement anything from that into my content. Because like I don't talk in my montages, but
Right.
I have now I where this is on the Marksman Plus channel where I can do pretty much. I've given myself for that channel. I'm gonna put on there anything I wouldn't put on my main channel, but like that I actually want to make or have fun with, right? Whether that's
Yep.
playthroughs of a different game or something. If
Yep.
I'm streaming, maybe like VOD from that. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's just
And with where we're at right now too with YouTube Shorts
Hmm.
becoming like the new Wild Wild West, you
Yeah,
might
this
even
sounds great.
consider. Oh my gosh, you might even consider putting some like clips from your VODs. You know, maybe not even the whole VOD because that's like a huge file and it's usually a pain. But if you have like a couple good shots or you have something funny that happens,
Hmm.
something that would stand alone as its own 30-second clip, that'd be a
Right.
really you could do that for that channel for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the uh, co-founder of the Villainous Gaming, he tweeted out I think it was like a couple weeks ago at this point, but he made a short. He was just editing a YouTube video just for fun, and it basically he said it got 1.6 thousand views.
Nice.
Just like he just randomly put a funny clip on there. So
Yep.
shorts are actually great for exposure right now because with the TikTok thing, everyone just wants to keep scrolling through
Yep.
in that content. And like when you're on YouTube Shorts, it's exactly like that. They just put random stuff on there, regardless of what video you started on.
Well,
So
and
that might
yeah,
be a good
trying to
avenue for people starting out like us, where
yeah,
we can grow with a different audience. Maybe yours might be a little more difficult because it's more of a teaching thing. You'd have to
yeah,
like specifically you should probably edit a video for a short.
yeah.
But like for
That's
me,
it.
I could just put a short clip on there and you know, I mean that's pretty
Well,
easy. If I knew how to actually make it, I'll have to talk to him, but
right. That was something maybe we can talk about like off recording. But I had an idea um, for something that because there's a new game called Manor Lords that's out that I've been working. I was playing the demo and created a little bit of static content for it, some Instagram posts, and I did have some videos, but I specifically recorded some short clips of the animations because I think they're really cool to watch, and they are enough that you could just watch. You know, it's like these the characters in the game building a building, but it's fun to see it play out.
yeah.
So yeah, I was just thinking about how it's a different kind of content, but I haven't really done the podcast thing. I mean, I've done a little bit in my professional life, but I haven't done it really with the gaming world. But it's a fascinating.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, sorry, I like stopped mid sentence because I was like, what am I supposed to be doing here?
Oh, I get
I
it. I
think
get it.
we jump over to that other ramp? Is that
No, okay, so try to like short like slow jump over to this ramp, you'll see it's like in between the gaps. But there's
okay?
like a little gap right in between and there's a I don't know if you saw it if you're looking down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't want us to jump as far as it feels like
Right.
we
You're
should.
just supposed to like barely get over the ramp
Ah,
and fall in
nice.
the
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay.
But once I'm over here, what do I do?
No, like you're supposed to get in between the two ramps. That's what I'm saying. Like go over
Oh
really
my gosh,
slow and there's like a
that's
grid
ridiculous.
in there. I can't figure it out. It's gonna aggravate. Oh,
I should just, if I could just take a mulligan, I would just accept the 20.
you actually can. If you press escape, you can surrender the hole. But might as well.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, might as well just keep trying until the time runs out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there we go.
Oh, thank goodness. All
That
right.
was brutal.
Where
Okay.
we go? Oh,
Another thing that I have on my that I feel like is worth sharing with people is it's okay to have bad ideas too. Like it's okay to experiment, and maybe you have an idea that seems like a good idea when you initially come up with it, but then you either start filming it or you get further in the creative process and you're like, dang, I cannot come up with a thumbnail for this, or there's
right.
not really a story here. And like I feel like a good percentage of being a creative is just being willing to scrap something
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily throw it all the way out, but just say like, this isn't for me right now.
Yeah, like take it and use it in a different way.
Yeah, I had there was a game that I played that where you got to create your own car company, which you
Mm-hmm.
know my gaming well enough by now to know like that's totally up my alley.
Right.
So I was like really enjoying this. You could do historical scenarios and all this, so I was like totally into it. And the first video I did with it did pretty well,
Hmm.
and I was pretty excited. Where are you? Oh,
I landed
you're
on the
sitting up
ramp.
there. Oh man,
Yeah.
I was pretty excited to be able to like make content, and it did pretty well, and the dev acknowledged my video and stuff, and I was like, this is so awesome. And then I just kind of got to a point where the game was pretty challenging,
Right.
and oh wow, okay, I'll take it. Um, oh,
Oh.
you got a hole in one also?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice, dude.
I was
But
hoping.
anyways, the
Yeah.
the game was pretty challenging, and I just felt like I kind of ran out of stuff to make with it, and I was getting like some of the feedback that I was getting was a little bit like I don't know. It, like I had some really what I thought were cool thumbnails, and I
Right.
thought it was good content and it was going okay,
Hmm.
but it just no longer fit the channel.
Oh,
And
okay.
knowing that it was time to pivot was a really well, you're really flying. Was a weird experience knowing that it was I
This is
needed to kind of be done
right.
with that series. It was time to move on, but I still literally have a page in my notebook that's like ideas for what to do next. Like they have tons of challenges for achievements, and I'm like, I could I could make an entire channel. I'm not going to, but I could
Right.
make an entire channel devoted to playing that game if I thought that I'd be able to build enough of an audience.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just making.
Oh,
That's something with, like I said, with the nature of my current channel. I don't have to like. Mine's a little more open than like yours, for instance, because like you said, I only play the same game, and I just have to create stories that or content that I can completely mold in that way. But when I was doing it was called Superhero Central. It was completely
yeah,
different kind of content. I was like ranking movies or comic books, stuff like that, where I had to see what what type was doing well. Were the ranking videos doing well, or were the different that kind of content like what was getting the most audience? But there for a while, I was struggling because I didn't know when to stop with certain things.
yep.
Like I would commit myself to doing a whole series on a certain character, and then I'd be so bored with it that the content lacked. If that makes sense, because I was like, I gotta finish it, instead of just being like, all right, I'm not getting the views on it, which was part of the issue with me not caring anymore.
Yeah,
And then also, like, I'm just not enjoying the content. You should always, when you're coming with content ideas, think of things that will do well, but that you'll enjoy making, because like that comes across a lot of times. I think that's.
that's it. I was watching a video with Mr. Beast from VidCon,
Hmm.
and he was, people were asking him about the algorithm, and he was like, if you want to know how to do well with the algorithm, you have to think about your audience.
Right.
Substitute that word instead of worrying about the machine that's
Hmm.
behind it. Think about the audience. So if you have a superhero audience, great. You have to make stuff that your superhero loving audience is going to want to watch, and you can pivot eventually,
Hmm.
but you can't pivot overnight and expect your audience to go with you. And kind of building the audience is the inherent challenge. But
Right.
I think you have a great point that our passion as the creative has to come through. If
Right.
we're clearly bored with it, it's time to find a new.
Yeah.
Oh my, this is like
This is so.
nauseating. Um,
What?
but it could be time to find a different game to play or a
Hmm.
different niche to fulfill,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh,
I totally agree with that.
you have to sometimes you have to take risks, and sometimes you have to realize that you if you take too much of a risk, your audience might not go with you.
Right. Yeah,
Oh no! Ah, I
it's
was so
it's got to
close.
be a bit of a balance, something that you'll enjoy doing, but like at the same time, like your audience is with you in that, because if you just do something like like you might completely enjoy a game, but it doesn't fit your audience. Like you were talking about your farm sim channel,
Yeah.
it's you said it was doing good on Twitter, which is like awesome because that's something that I assume you made more because you like that game a lot, and even though it doesn't completely fit your content on your main channel, or if you just wanted to dedicate a whole thing to it.
Yeah. Well,
But like,
and that was
I'm sure you can see that because you enjoyed making that stuff, like the content does better than if you were to, just keep making random like content that you don't care as much about, if that makes sense.
right. And part of what has been successful with that in particular is that I finally found a niche. I
Mm-hmm.
started doing like vintage equipment, antique tractors and that kind of stuff. And there's just not that many farm sim creators that are doing that specific thing.
Right.
And that when I what the issue that I had when it was on my main channel was that people would be like, there'd be a farm sim video and then the next video on the channel is banished. Those two
Right.
things are not all alike.
So it's hard to maintain a
So it's hard to
steady
maintain.
audience. I got.
Right. And I'm hoping that like Banished and Medieval Dynasty and eventually Manor Lords, those are all historical simulation games. And I'm hoping that they're being more similar. Will we just go straight here?
Yeah, that's I just cranked up my mouse speed. Oh,
um,
gotta turn that back down a little bit. Okay.
but to get a little more back to our initial question about coming up with ideas, like, I'm sure people are probably like, how many different ways could there possibly be to play a game like Farming Simulator or Banished or whatever? But to me, that's, some of the feedback that I've gotten from my audience has been that they appreciate the way I come up with new ideas. On Banished right now, I'm doing a tropical playthrough. Like it's a game that's based on settlement in the colonial era, and I'm using a mod pack that wasn't specifically designed for this, but I'm just interpreting. I made up my own theme,
Right.
and I'm playing it through. And some people are into that, and some people aren't, and that's okay too. I feel like a part of acknowledging your audience is realizing that they're not necessarily all going to love everything you create,
Right.
but as long as you have, oh no, went off the end of the world. As long as you have like some core concept,
Right.
and then you're just doing variations of that. What would it be? Like when you're doing montage stuff, if you typically do sniper stuff, then, or you typically are an AR main or whatever, and then you decide, okay, now I'm gonna try doing this other. Oh man, you crushed me. Good job.
Yeah, I'm shocked myself because that one hole I was on for quite some time. So
Yeah, well, you beat me by 4 strokes on the third hole, and then I got you by 6 on the fifth hole.
yeah,
What the heck? Oh, that my
the hole.
22 on the 10th hole and my
Yeah, you had
22 on
two
the
on the
15th
22,
probably
so I
did
only
me
had the
in.
one.
Yeah,
We did
the
have a decent
15th hole
hole.
closed the gap. If we would have been closer on that, it would have been a closer match. But GG's.
Yeah, good golf. Fair all around. Do you want to finish your point, or were you pretty much?
Oh yeah, I can finish my point. Well, I
Okay.
just wanted to kind of to conclude what I was trying to say about this to encourage people who are working on creating their own content that just go, sometimes you just have to try something, like
Right.
put a video out there. If it doesn't do well, but you took a risk, you tried it, look at the views, look at the click-through rate, like change up the thumbnail, change the title after the second week, then do it again after the fourth week, then do it again after the sixth week, and just keep tweaking, see how the algorithm responds to it. That is to say, see how your audience is responding to it,
Right.
because it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad video. But if you look and people are clicking away after 30 seconds, then think about like how you could change that pacing. Was it a good idea to start with, or was it a bad idea and it's dead in the water there? You could always pull it down or just, private the video and take the idea part of it that did work and do a new version of it. Like that constant revision. You can't be a creative person and not have that revision process. So, the theme of this episode is about having, where do you get your ideas? And the argument that I'm making is that half of the process is you start somewhere. It might be an outrageous idea, and then you hone it until it's finally a good idea that people will click on and people will stay for.
Right. Hey guys, thank you for stopping by this episode of Tea Time. This was episode 5, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe to this channel, and also subscribe to Bluebelly Gaming's channel. He's doing a lot of good stuff over there. Also, if you want to subscribe to my main channel, which I talk about in this podcast / show, go ahead, check it out at Villains Marksman. I can link it down below in the description. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed and have a good day.